Good morning and welcome to Morning Java, brought to you as always by our friends at the Get Go Cafe and Market, where Dale, they are open for business, kind of unlike Market Square.
Everything here.
This is Market Square on, what is today, Wednesday?
Today's a Wednesday. 2.5 weeks into this thing.
I mean, it's not just this, which is staggering in and of itself. Because Market Square has become just this great thing. I mean, every spot is filled with some kind of happening restaurant, and it's a ghost town. But it's the whole every day is the same. You can't tell the weekends from the weekdays.
I have found that myself. I had to kind of question myself what day today was.
Yeah, what is this?
And that's just the reality of the situation. Again, I look to, I think our local sports teams have done a pretty good job of kind of giving us some news on a regular basis, making guys available to talk, to kind of break up the, I don't want to call it monotony because it's not really monotony, but it's just to break up the boredom.
Yeah, and that's a key thing too here, because one message that we've gotten, you and I, from our readers, loud and clear, is that as much as they understand and accept that this is part of what we're going to talk about, because this is just the new world, they still want to hear and read about just pure plain sports. I wrote a hockey column that ran this morning that was as close to a game column as I could possibly write, revisiting the Penguins' last game in Newark, almost like in a drive to the net kind of way here. We're going to be doing a lot of that with football in the coming month here, in terms of breaking down potential draft targets. I haven't gotten any backlash from people, have you, where they just say, hey, enough of this sports stuff,
The funny thing is the people complaining about sports still going on that I've seen on social media are other sports writers, which makes no sense to me.
Worst.
Get off, stop grandstanding.
Get off
the soapbox.
It's what you do for a living,
This isn't hurting anything.
The dude from the LA Times was the worst. Do you remember that? And I actually like this. I'll call his name. I was Sam Farmer from the LA Times.
Good guy. His family in Newcastle.
He does good work too. And then he just jumped onto this social media train that, how can the NFL be continuing with free agency? It's such a bad look. Dude, shut up. NFL players are going to get paid whether there's this pandemic going on or not. They're going to still be really rich guys.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Somebody went after another guy today on social media saying, how could the NFL hold its draft? They're not getting in a room together. It's no different than if you got 12 guys together in 12 different cities and held a fantasy football draft.
Yeah, but the idea that it's somehow insensitive or whatever else, it's just the world going on.
If your business can work, it works.
Yeah, and it's not hurting anybody or putting anybody at risk. Among the people who have been accessible to us, and we certainly appreciate it, is Kevin Kolbert. You were on a call with him Tuesday night. It's the second time he's been made available to us since this thing started, and he spoke specifically about a couple of guys that he's picked up in the free agency period, and that was Eric Ebron and Chris Wormley. Wormley, let's take him first, because we all talk about Ebron, and he's been a topic. Nobody brings up Wormley. Wormley's actually going to be on the field. Not that Ebron isn't, but this is a real player.
Yeah, I think they've really improved their depth on their defensive line in that, I know they lost Javon Hargrave.
Yep.
But what they did was they now have a rotation of 4 defensive ends, assuming that Tyson Alualu is going to be the nose tackle. And judging by what Kevin Kolbert said yesterday, that is going to be the case. He specifically said that Wormley is not a nose tackle. He's a defensive end.
He's an end.
He'll slide inside in the 3-4. He'll play quote-unquote defensive tackle in the 3-4, much like Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt. But when they're in their nickel and dime defenses, which they are 70% of the time,
and that's another
he's an
point.
end.
That's another point that Kevin made too, is that he was referring to sub packages are now base packages. Okay, there's no such thing as base anymore. Your sub is your base. And if you look at the way the Steelers would line up defensively, again, with all due respect to everything Javon Hargrave did while he was here, he didn't get on the field anywhere near what you'd pay somebody.
43% of the time in
$13
2018.
million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the ideal situation for them. When Tuitt and Hayward were both healthy, Hargrave played 43% of the snaps in 2018. Last year, obviously, that went up because he had the ability to be both a nose tackle and a pass rusher. Well, you're not going to necessarily find that guy in the draft.
No.
And so,
not to start right away, certainly.
Absolutely
not
not.
At a position that's that layered. I also feel like, though, between Wormley and Alualu, Cam had, I think, the best year of his career.
He's just gotten better and better every year.
He's unbelievable. However, he's not a child anymore. And Stefan, God bless him, he's elite when he's out there, but he keeps getting hurt. I have a feeling that you're going to see these guys work in almost, as opposed to where will they line up, it's more going to be about how are they rotated.
Yeah.
And how often can they come off the field, as opposed to, who's going to be the run stopper, who's going to be this situation, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they did last year a lot of. If you watched Isaiah Buggs got into a lot of games, especially later in the year.
Can't forget about Buggs either, by the way.
Alualu played very well in place of Tuitt.
Buggs?
Yeah, I like Buggs a lot. I mean, 2 years ago he led Alabama's defense in sacks. I mean, that's not a fluke. He's legit. But he's not a nose tackle. They don't have a true nose tackle type on the roster because Daniel McCullers is not it.
No, he's not it. We love you, Big Dan, but no.
Alualu is the guy right now, and they'll draft another guy. I think right now they probably have the best depth that they've had on their defensive line in several years, which is saying a lot considering they lost Hargrave. But they now have 6 guys on their roster, including McCullers at this point, who have NFL experience. They didn't have that last year. They didn't have it the year before that. It's an interesting situation.
Okay, devil's advocate here, though, with you. Hargrave signs with the Eagles, and he talks to the Philly reporters, and one of the things that he tells them is that Pittsburgh was one of the last 2 or 3 teams that was in touch with him. Why would the Steelers have then continued to try to keep him?
Well, I mean, you'd like to keep the guy. But they weren't going to pay him $13 million a year.
So it's more a matter of just...
If his number would have been $8 or $9 million a year, that makes more sense
you can
than
go
13.
and get restructures and everything else.
But it didn't make sense at $13 million a year for a guy who, at best, which was last year, played 60% of the snaps.
So the Bloomberg News Service on Tuesday morning reported that the Chinese have been faking the numbers out of Wuhan. And I say this only because 24 hours earlier, Kevin Kolbert let everybody know that they're interested in a running back in the draft. And I'm thinking, which one of these had greater shock value to you? You know what I mean? It's like, really?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for months, that the Steelers need to upgrade the running back position. There are several reasons for that. James Conner, who's great when he's on the field, can't stay on the field enough.
Can't stay on the field.
I mean, he played 6 quarters of football in the second half of last season. 6 quarters in the last 8 games. That's not enough. The guys behind him proved, in particular, Jalen Samuels is not a true NFL running back. He's more of a gadget type player.
He's a neon sign as soon as he steps off the sideline. He lets you know he's
absolutely. You know why he's in the game. You knew why Kareth White was in the game. You knew why Benny Snell was in the game. That's why they need to upgrade that position. And don't forget, Dayon, the NFL is going to go to 17 games in 2021.
Well, you could use 5 running backs.
Yeah, to ask a running back, a single running back, to carry the ball or touch the ball 20 times per game is 340 touches in a season.
Even Le'Veon's not going to pull that off.
Yeah.
And you were talking about with Le'Veon, an absolute freak of
stud.
Durability.
He was a stud.
Yeah, and I mean, the one time that Le'Veon did get hurt with the Steelers was with Vontez's
he had a couple
cheap shot.
Yeah, he had a couple.
Whip, remember?
It wasn't, it wasn't necessarily soft tissue injuries. These were traumatic tackle injuries, and those are going to happen to running backs. And don't forget, James Conner's contract is up after this season. So you need to start thinking about that position now. That's where the value is going to be at in this draft as well. If you start looking at where the running backs are going to fall in this draft, at 49, the Steelers are in kind of a sweet spot there. Those running backs aren't going to start to go until late in the first round.
Yeah, they're going to have their pick.
Yeah,
it's not just a matter of waiting for the one that they're hoping to fall. They're going to have a pick. Like, they're going to have 2 or 3 guys that they really like, and they're going to take the one that they get out of that. Are they going to stick with that, though? You know what I'm saying?
The only way I see that changing, This wide receiver group is so deep and dynamic. There are 12 to 14 guys that might have, in a normal year, had a first-round grade on them. If one of those guys would happen to fall and they have a really high grade on them, higher than that of the running backs, I could see them potentially passing on the running back to take a receiver. I don't see any other position that happens.
I was just about to say, I'm just going to throw this in your court just because I feel like I know these guys well enough that they could, if an elite offensive lineman.
I just don't see you getting
But they've done it before.
I don't see you getting an elite offensive lineman at pick 49.
Okay.
There are too many teams in the league that need offensive line help. I expect there would be as many as 10 offensive linemen drafted before they make their first pick. Then you're getting the 11th or 12th or 13th best offensive lineman.
You're guessing,
Maybe you like that guy, but probably not as much as you're going to like that running back or wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, that wasn't a biker gang that was revving up behind us. That was the Pittsburgh police.
It's kind of a biker gang. There were like 8 of them sitting back
here. They're here making sure that there are not any mass congregations in Market Square.
Nothing to worry about today.
There's no problem in that regard.